Listen, Mets fans, I knew that asking for a series sweep against one of the best teams in baseball and the Detroit Tigers and Detroit was easier said than done. But if you would have told me that a key factor as to why the Mets dropped the series finale by a final score of 6-2 was headlined by Ryan Helsley's incompetence on the mound again, I would have told you I'm not shocked to hear that. And folks, that is exactly what happened. How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest New York Metropolitan post-game show to get into. And I'm fairly angry, I can't lie to you guys, mainly because it was a one-run ball game and Carlos Mendoza really said to himself, we got to throw Ryan Helsley in there, as if we haven't had endless reasons time and time again to suggest that this man, as of now, cannot at all be considered in anywhere close to a high-leverage situation at this point in his Mets tenure. Ryan Helsley was nothing short of batting practice yet again, whether it's tipping pitches, whether it's a lack of confidence, whether it's a combination of the two, which I wholeheartedly believe. Ryan Helsley is quickly entering DFA territory for this Mets bullpen as he cost the Mets yet again by having himself a horrendous inning, not even getting more than just a couple outs. Pair that with Gregory Soto, who unfortunately could not get the one lefty out that he needed there, coming in for Clay Holmes' mess there in the fifth inning, or sixth inning rather, that being, and Riley Green. Riley Green somehow, some way gets himself a hard single. We're talking 109 off the bat, opposite field, just out of the reach of Soto, and the entire unravelment of this ball game was headlined by the Mets not getting their pitching. Clay Holmes was strong until he wasn't. He didn't have a struggle in the fourth inning, which has been his demise many times this season, but he most certainly had a struggle there as he tried to give the Mets 6 strong innings of work. He was unable to do so, walking multiple batters in this one, setting the stage for Gregory Soto and eventually Ryan Helsley, two of the 3 biggest acquisitions that David Stearns made for this Mets bullpen leading up to the MLB trade deadline, and 2 of those 3 were absolutely key factors in the Mets faltering in this one. That was not the only factor, however, everybody, that we're going to break down your initial reactions and thoughts to this 6-2 defeat here in our latest post-game show presented by our amazing sponsors at SeatGeek that have you covered for all of your ticketing needs. Make sure you guys utilize our promo code WARDY10. That way you too get 10% off your next ticket purchase. With the NFL season right around the corner, with more Mets tickets to be had, should you guys have interest, whatever you need in the ticketing space, SeatGeek has you covered, as well as Moomoo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets, but more on them later, because the pitching was costly. Ryan Helsley is the talk of the town today in the worst way possible. And I want to know from you guys if you firmly are under the belief that the Mets should cut ties with Ryan Helsley, or at minimum go with the next move, which would be to move him into low leverage situations. Kind of like what the Mets ultimately did with Frankie Montas. He goes from rotation to bullpen to barely being utilized at all before he went down with his season-ending Tommy John surgery. Helsley, I'm not expecting a phantom IL stint just yet, but should have happened. Don't be shocked by that either, obviously, as the Mets are going to try to figure out what's next for him. Is it low leverage? Is it DFA? I do not expect him to get DFA'd, but I completely understand the arguments and the frustration by fans. But it doesn't just stop there, because listen, it was hard for this Mets offense to try to get something going today. One, they were initially down, obviously, not just 1 run, but let's make it 4 runs as we're already finding ourselves in the 7th inning or so. We know that this offense has been brilliant over the past month and a half plus, but when it comes to being down multiple runs from the 7th inning on, the likelihood of the Mets rallying back has been slim to none. Before Helsley had his implosion in this ballgame, however, there was one man who costed the Mets in more ways than one with the bat today. That unfortunately was Charlie Marte. Marte grounded into an inning-ending double play after the Mets were trying to get a rally going, as Mark Vientos made it a 1-run ball game, initially 3-2 Detroit at that time in said ball game, but it wasn't enough. Marte had an inning-ending ground out later on the ball game as well. He stranded 6 total batters that we saw on base. The Mets themselves went a measly 2 for 9 and left 9 on base there, going 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. So everything went wrong for the Mets for the most part today. They did not have the offense clicking the way that otherwise was brilliant the past number of games, and their pitching, while Clay Holmes was not necessarily a problem, he gets charged all those 3 runs in this one after Gregory Soto comes in and cannot get the job done against Riley Green, who only had 2 or 3 home runs against lefties this year, has 29 against righties, and had himself an absolutely scorching hot smoke single opposite field to give Detroit the lead and the ultimate victory in this ball game. Let's get into everything that you guys and gals need to know in this one, but thank you guys kindly to everyone for stopping in live live at a replay. Do not hesitate, like I said, from telling me exactly how you guys and gals feel right now, especially on the Ryan Helsley front, because, guys, it continues to get from bad to down absolutely horrendous. Ryan Helsley, after getting rocked by this Tigers team today, after, again, he couldn't locate the zone whatsoever, we're actually going to begin our conversation today by getting into Ryan Helsley, and then from there, we're going to talk more on the other aspects of this series finale defeat. But it's headlined by Helsley in more ways than one that we'll expand on in a second. Casey with a $5 donation states the following: not upset at that loss as much as the fact Helsley is completely broken and he's supposed to be a big cog in the bullpen. Too many head cases pitching. Endless head cases is what it feels like right now. And as we continue to see throughout the course of this season, whether it was moves that David Stearns made heading into the year or whether it was moves at the deadline, they just are not working out. And listen, I get it. Helsley has been tipping pitches. It's something he's been subconsciously doing, that he stayed a Wolf Salmon of The Athletic and Anthony DeComo of what we saw on MLB.com over the past couple days, but doesn't change the fact that they still haven't remedied this. And whether he has remedied it and now he's lost his confidence because he's second guessing, or vice versa and he hasn't remedied it yet, either way, it's still an absolutely glaring problem. Helsley entered this Mets tenure at the trade deadline with a 2.67 or so ERA with the St. Louis Cardinals so far this year. Since arriving with the New York Mets in his past 13 appearances or so, he has an ERA of 11.45. He has been dog water. He has been batting practice. And as crazy as it is to say, as we mentioned, we'll say it again, Helsley's name in DFA territory isn't as much out of the realm of possibility as you maybe believe. The main reason as to why the Mets are going to do everything in their power to make sure that doesn't happen yet is twofold. It's one, you don't want to cut the guy too soon when there's huge risk of him being picked up by an opposing contending team like the Phillies, like the Dodgers, like the Padres, whoever, and he gets himself right, gets in a groove again, and then he goes out and dominates, potentially against the Mets, leading into postseason play. Then you also have the fact that who did the Mets give up for Ryan Helsley, where there was one notable prospect out of that group more than anyone, and that was going to be, yes, Jesus Baez. Jesus Baez was one of the Mets' hardest hitters in all the minor leagues, paired with guys like Ryan Clifford, among others, and seen by many as one of their better prospects that they had in the organization, arguably a top 10 prospect for them, and he was a key prospect that went the other way. Now, at the time of his talking right now, Jesus Baez is like just under a 700 OPS in the minor leagues for St. Louis and their affiliate, but when you think long-term about the impact of trading for, again, a high-leverage rental, this is unfortunately the risk that David Stearns took, and now it's coming back to bite them in the you-know-what right away that we're seeing before our very eyes. Thank you guys as you guys are chiming in live at a replay. Let me get all these comments, questions, and concerns here. We're going to break down more on Helsley in just a second. We got my guy Liam. Thank you so much for being a great member of 3 months. Can we send Ryan Helsley to the Sun, please? I don't think we can send him to the Sun, nor can the Mets send him even to the minor leagues as much as maybe you'd like that to happen. They're already pondering that idea with Kodai Senga, but listen, we can't do this with everybody, right? Shaman has been looking horrendous. Is he getting placed on the injured list? Is he getting boxed out of the rotation? What is happening? Because Shaman is expected to start Monday in Philadelphia against the Phillies, which I'm kind of shaking my boots just the thought of thinking about right now. Then you add in all the other injuries that have plagued this Mets team as of late with the inconsistencies as well, from Frankie Montas to David Pearson looking like batting practice his last couple starts that we've seen, to what feels like, again, everybody and their mother just not giving you what you're looking for from the grizzled veterans that have been paving the way for a good period of time for this Mets team. Liam, thank you so much for the comment there. We also got our guy here. I know I saw another comment here from Shraken, great member of 49 months. Love you, Shraken. Hells Bells needs to leave seriously, and clearly I need to attend more games for the Mets, because Ryan Helsley's 2 best appearances he's ever had as a New York Met, I was in attendance for. It was his first game as a Met, which was August 1st against the Giants, in which the Mets faltered after they rallied back initially. Tom Smith had himself the big hit there in extras to win, if I'm not mistaken. And then we saw there Ryan Helsley had a clean outing in the 13-3 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies going back a week and a half or so ago. Casey with another $5 holla. Thank you so much. Feels like Mets ceiling right now is 2-3. Pitching issues always seem to prevent any kind of sweep. You're 1,000% right. The Mets have not been able to close out sweeps consistently whatsoever this season. Can't survive both starting pitching and relief pitching blowing it up. I couldn't have said it better myself, my guy. And expand more on Ryan Helsley and just how bad things have been in the case of him right now. We're We're going to hear from Carlos Mendoza as he spoke to the media at the time of us talking right now. We're going to see what Mendy has to say, as well as Ryan Helsley's following numbers, guys, because as I mentioned, an 11.45 ERA over his 13 appearances or so. He has an opponent batting average of 524. Guys are batting over 500%. They're batting over half the time against Helsley. Home runs allowed, 3. Hard hit percentage, roughly 60%. Disgusting. Whip percentage, 17.5%. Just horrendous numbers for Helsley, who, when the Mets initially acquired him, was supposed to be this high leverage, this high tempo, this high moxie arm to really come in and basically be like a Ryan Stanek on steroids, in the sense of being 10 times better than a Stanek, in the sense that you're ceiling, and at absolute minimum kind of being like a Ryan Stanek if he's really not going to perform well. The problem that we're all seeing is that Helsley, who has a fastball that touches 102, it means squat when he's throwing meatballs. It also means nothing when he has a slider that isn't pairing well whatsoever, is not getting the bite that he's looking for, not getting the chase, not getting the swing and miss, and more than anything, he just does not have the confidence whatsoever. There is nothing about Helsley to tell you as a Mets fan right now that he's going to get things right, and I 100% believe that he's still tipping pitches, because again, it appears that the opposing teams know exactly what he's throwing every single time out there. We saw this happen a couple of days ago, the same way that we're seeing it right here, right now. And expand more on the pitching again, Clay Holmes began this ball game strong, and I apologize, everybody, if I misspoke earlier saying that Holmes wasn't able to give us 6 innings. I meant to say 5 innings. That was completely on me. I got tongue-tied for a second there. But Holmes there went just under 5 innings. Another 5-and-dive outing for Clay Holmes, where the first run wasn't his fault. It was because of defensive blunder. The second runs, however, were more his fault for the walks that he allowed that were ultimately driven in because Gregory Soto could not get the job done against Riley Green. Outside of Soto in this one, who wasn't charged with runs, but again didn't help it inherited runners on, Ryan Helsley now at right around a 5 ERA this season, which is brutal. Justin Hageman won 1.1 shutty, which is great. Hageman being the latest kind of, short-term relief option. This Mets bullpen getting the job done when basically no one's asking him to. He's just going to go ahead and do it. And I also apologize here. Let me pull up the hitting stats as well, because I just threw up the pitching again. These were the... Let me make sure. Yeah, they're both the same stats, aren't they? Yeah, they are. No worries. Let's go ahead and show you guys the hitting stats as well. We're going to break down more on the hitting numbers in the next couple minutes once we actually break down the ball game itself. But I did just want to relay briefly for you guys to check out how the Mets offense fared today. This is how the lineup ended today, just for some context, in case you guys are wondering. This is now not necessarily how the lineup started, even though now that I'm looking at it, I don't think that there was anyone actually changed or taken out of the ball game. So yeah, this was exactly how the ball game started and ended. And the Mets had themselves a big game from Pete Alonso, obviously, but outside of Mark Vientos, who had himself a clutch RBI as well, they just had nothing to show whatsoever. The offense was not there, and the offense is not going to come to win every single time. We know that. It's going to come down to pitching. Pitching is what's going to make or break this Mets team throughout the course of the 162. I think we can all agree there. And unfortunately, what we just witnessed, everybody, is the reality of what Clay Holmes has continued to be, as well as, unfortunately, the bullpen not being nearly as rock solid as what you're hoping for. Let's see. Helsley had a 1.39 whip with the Cardinals. Stearns is blind. Stearns isn't blind. You have to realize, for what you gave up for Helsley, it was still a rock-solid trade at the time. The only thing that did not work out for Stearns of the Mets is that Helsley has pitched far and away the worst baseball of his career. That whip means literally nothing when you look at what his career norms have been, and this has been statistically his worst season of his career over his past 5+ year stretch, when, mind you, the numbers are still relatively good. I get that whip wasn't sexy, but for what you gave up for him, for the most part, it was well worth the trade at the time. We can all sit here and be like, hindsight's 2020, because it is, but don't be that kind of fan and say, oh, it was a stupid trade from the first time of it happening. It was never a stupid trade from the time of it first happening. It made endless sense, as a matter of fact, as long as Helsley can handle non-safe situations outside that closer role. The problem is not only is Helsley incompetent in being able to handle non-safe situations right now, but Buddy can't handle any situation right now. It feels like even when you have a 4 or 5 run lead, you're shaking in your boots because you know it's just not enough of a cushion against, for the opposing team here, because you know that they're going to have a great chance to rally all the way back. That's been the story, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm frustrated. I'm beyond frustrated because Helsley is costing the Mets games, and I say that in the sense that if Helsley did not get rocked the way that he did in this ball game, you have to wonder, it was still just a 1-run ball game. Do the Mets actually rally back because they know that they're closer within reach, or did they feel that they had more of that rollover and die mentality, knowing, unfortunately, that was kind of the most likely route to go down because they were down, instead of 1 run, 4 runs with only, say, 9 outs or so to play. It's things that you think about when you think about what impacts the Mets offense on the daily, and pitching has most undoubtedly been their biggest thorn in their side when it comes to momentum killers, rally killers, outside of Starling Marte, who, as I mentioned, had himself a really, really bad day at the plate today. I'm not complaining too much. In the case of Marte, he's been brilliant and good and great stretches for the Mets, but he was not able to get the job done whatsoever in this one. So, guys, let's go on and let's break down this ball game, what we didn't like in Ryan Helsley. And I also sincerely apologize. No one reminded me sooner, and that's on you guys, not me, for showing you guys the post-game highlights from yesterday. Beside you right now, I had all the highlights set. I knew that something was missing. I just didn't know what it was. So let's go ahead and switch those now. Apologies to everybody that's been watching the past, say, 15 minutes or so, but I think it's kind of fitting. I might as well show the highlights from yesterday, from when things were riding high in Mets land, versus just showing you the doom and gloom, which is more so what you're seeing right here. Between Helsley getting rocked, Soto, unfortunately, giving up that single there opposite field of Riley Green. You had some decent highlights from Clay Holmes, even though there wasn't a lot to choose from. Slim picking, same thing with Pete Alonso in this one, Mark Vientos, and a whole lot more, everybody. But before we break down this ball game, before we get into the ins and outs about the Mets dropping this series finale and what is basically next for them, as they have a key decision making not only in Helsley, but their rotation and the days going forward, let's hear a quick word from our amazing sponsor on the platform, that being at Moomoo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets. It's Wardy here. Folks, have you been seeing that big orange bowl that's making Mondays at Citi Field way more exciting? I'm talking about our amazing sponsor on the platform at Moomoo. As the #1 Mets channel on YouTube, I absolutely love to break down stats, analysis, really getting into the nitty-gritty numbers, and that is why I love so much Moomoo, because they do exactly that with that same analytical approach when it comes to investing. It's a trading platform with professional-grade tools and premium research that other companies usually charge a pretty hefty price for, all come for free when you sign up as a customer with Moomoo. But folks, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And thanks to Moomoo's partnership with our beloved New York Metropolitans, all Moomoo customers can get free tickets to any and every Mets home game on a Monday throughout the course of the season. That's right, folks. Free baseball all season long for the greatest fan base in sports. Not to mention Moomoo Millions. If the Mets pull off 100 wins this season, one lucky Moomoo customer is going to come out winning $1 million. And what's nuts about this is that Moomoo has already given away $10,000 when the Mets hit first 25 wins this season, as well as $20,000 when they hit the 50-win mark. And when the Mets inevitably hit 75 wins, they're giving away $30,000. But as much as they love baseball, Moomoo's #1 priority is jump-starting your investing journey, which is why they're giving the WardyNYM community up to $1,000 in NVIDIA stock just for making a qualified deposit and becoming a Moomoo customer. So folks, what are you waiting for? Head to start.moomoo.com/Wardy, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description to join the Moomoo community. Now, let's get back to our Mets. All right, folks. Now, a couple more things I want to relay with Ryan Helsley before we actually break down the ballgame. I think it's important. One, as I mentioned, he has 11.45 ERA so far for the Mets in his past 13-14 outings. He's actually allowed 14 earned runs in 14 appearances thus far, and that is contrary to what he did with the Cardinals, obviously, this year, as he allowed just 13 runs in 55 outings for the Cardinals this season. So already Ryan Helsley has surpassed the amount of earned runs as he has given up for his ball club in just a 2-week or so sample size of ball games, if he played every single game, versus what he did in just under 60 games for the St. Louis Cardinals this year. Yeah, kind of horrendous, kind of a big deal, and a massive problem for this Mets bullpen right now. And to talk more, to speak more in regards to Ryan Helsley's struggles, let's defer to, yes, Carlos Mendoza and see what he has to say about the latest when it comes to Mr. Helsley. And then I'm going to have a lot to say about Carlos Mendoza, thinking it was at all a bright idea to bring Helsley in a one-run ball game. I don't care the bullpen status. It never made sense.
Any thoughts in particular why it has turned for him like this? He was, performing so well before coming over.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating part here. That this is a guy you look up, he's 102, and they continue to take some really good swings, and then the way they're taking the breaking ball too. And I don't think he's tipping related. He made some adjustments. He's kind of like talking ahead. how do we help this guy? Because right now we're not doing that. And when you got that type of stuff and they keep hitting it like that, it's like something's going on here. Especially when.
Do you think there's anything to the mental side of a guy that comes to New York, pitching in New York for the first time?
I wouldn't say New York. Like this guy is a closer. Closers, especially when you're that good. For him, I think it's just, if anything, it's just the struggles. But whether it's New York, St. Louis, whatever the case might be, big league players are gonna go through stretches where it's hard. But I wouldn't put it on like New York. These guys built for it. So.
While I appreciate the optimism by many to say he's built for it, we have yet to believe that Ryan Helsley is at all close to being built for New York baseball. Because the reality is that, as many just relayed, and this brings me to my great frustration, he just relayed the obvious point that we've been saying since the start of Helsley's struggles. He is a closer. He's a high-tempo, high-octane, big moxie type closer, meaning that he's a guy that really feeds off of adrenaline heading into his outings. It's hard to get adrenaline when he is in a ball game in which the Mets are losing and, say, in the 6th or 7th inning. That alone, I'm sure, has been a struggle for Helsley. But that is not Carlos Mendoza's fault, as that is on David Stearns, because at the end of the day, whatever was relayed David's way before trading for Helsley is what it is. But the fact of the matter is that when you trade for a closer, it works a lot of times in baseball where these closers can properly transition to be a setup man or a multi-inning guy, whatever the case may be. But there are instances like what we're seeing before our very eyes in which it doesn't work out and it completely fails. And a guy who has electric stuff has no clue how to properly utilize it because he just looks like a scared little kitty cat every time that he's on the mound. Now, let's get into my big frustration with Carlos Mendoza today, and that has everything to do with, again, his usage. I'm sorry. I understand that the Mets have struggled to get length outside of guys like Noah McLean, but there was nothing to truly justify Mr. Ryan Helsley being in this ball game in a one-run ball game. Tell me what there was to justify. There wasn't. You could have put Tyler Rogers back out there. I understand they used him this series, but again, these are your top relievers for a reason. Throw them back out there. Then when you get yourself set for the 8th and 9th inning, you reassess and go on from there. This team is clearly missing a Reed Garrett right now, who would have probably been utilized in that spot otherwise. I know that Garrett has not pitched well since really June, but you have to wonder how much does that go in hand with the elbow inflammation he's had, and just kind of getting that down, because we have seen a correlation between from going back last season to now this year to when the Mets shut down Reed Garrett and then bring him back, he has tended to perform better in certain instances. So not having a guy like Reed in this bullpen certainly hurt today, but knowing that Helsley is just a guy that cannot at all be in consideration for somewhat of a high leverage spot, whether it's you're down a run and a tie ball game, up a run, what have you, you just cannot do it as long as the game is within decent reach like that. Like Helsley, the last time he was out there was in a 4-run lead for the Mets, and he still gave up a run or so. But again, that was okay, at least knowing that he was in a lower leverage spot that the Mets were controlling. Not here, as we're only down a singular run and never made any justified sense. Helsley has been so bad out there that you can't even say to yourself, oh, Ryan Stanek's a worse option. He's not. Stanek has been a better pitcher between himself and Helsley. That is how bad and how low the bar has been. So bearing that in mind, knowing that no reliever has been worse than this bad as Ryan Helsley, wouldn't you say to yourself as Mets skipper Carlos Mendoza, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't utilize the one guy who's been batting practice 9 out of 10 times out there, has little to no confidence on the mound, and is openly speaking to the media and stating how he is tipping his pitches. It's almost like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, yet if you ask Carlos Mendoza, he'd be saying to you right now, I don't know. I just thought that that was the right move to go to, and it most certainly wasn't. Liam with the $10 donation. Thank you so much for that, Liam. He states, Ryan Helsley just plain blows. High leverage, low leverage, no leverage. He probably couldn't pitch a damn wiffle ball game. Tipping or not, it's put up or shut up time. I 100% agree, because again, there's no margin, there's no wiggle room for error for this Mets team to sit on their hands and not be proactive about the struggles that they're having. You can't fix him even when even even you, he is a wet log. Thank you so much for the donation track, and I appreciate that, telling me how you're really feeling there. And again, guys, don't hold back. Like I said, we even got Dave Caput's great member in the chat saying I would take Jake Diekman over Ryan Helsley. That's how you know the bar's low. Because if Jake Diekman did one thing for us last year, that was being Aaron Judge's father when no one asked him to, right? If you know, going back to last year's Subway Series matchup. But yeah, the bar is very low with Ryan Helsley right now. It feels like it can't get much worse than this. But as we say, as we always do, it most certainly can get worse. We have seen things get worse for this team plenty times this season. So for Helsley, back to the drawing board, and we'll see how he fares. Because, listen, the next 2 series that Helsley can be utilized are in batting practice stadiums against red-hot offenses. You're in Cincy starting Friday against the Reds and their ballpark, which is arguably the worst in baseball outside of Colorado when it comes to being a hitter's ballpark. Then we have Philadelphia for a 4-game set at the Bank, and we know how much is a hitter's park there with a roaring crowd of fans. I'll be in attendance for one of those games, so hopefully Helsley's pitching the day I'm there, because I've been his only good luck charm at this point. So I don't know what is going to happen, but what I do know is that the next 2 series don't get any easier for the Mets on how to properly utilize Helsley. He's going to be in situations that really are not best for him to actually get in the groove here. But as we just said before, and we'll say it again, it's put up or shut up time. You don't have any other real wiggle room or opportunity to say, okay, now is the best time to utilize Helsley. Like, no, you just have to kind of see when is en route to go down for him. But as we have seen since August 1st when he made his debut with this Mets team, he is just not a guy the Mets can at all consider moving forward. Where's Sproat and McGill? Brandon Sproat looks like he will be added to this Mets team to actually be making his MLB debut as soon as sometime next week, because it does appear that Noel McLean is going to be getting the start on Sunday, barring changes, based on the latest reporting from Mike Puba over this past night that we broke down in our video earlier today on reporting that the Mets are considering sending down Kodai Senga. We broke down Tyler McGill's latest rehab outing, key notes on Tyrone Taylor, Jesse Winker, Francisco Alvarez, Jose Siri, and a bunch more. You guys can make sure to check it out after watching this one. Before I break down the ball game, let me get to this one final comment here, and that is KC with a $5 holla. Helsley would benefit hard from a changeup. His slider can't hit the zone, and opponents are sitting on fastballs. Without a solid third pitch, he's cooked, and the problem is he's not going to just miraculously build a third pitch right now when we have less than a month left to play. It just ain't going to happen. Helsley's going to defer to what he's been doing with his success for the vast majority of his career, which has been, again, that kind of Edwin Diaz 1-2 punch of your absolutely devastating forcing fastball that touches 102 and a slider that, when right, can be nasty as well. What's our best standout reliever in the minors? That would be Dylan Ross, who has a 2.08 ERA in AAA Syracuse. He is that one top pitching prospect reliever that I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets consider calling up before the season's end. But as of now, complete wash as to what they're going to do there. And speaking of a complete wash, that was the Mets in this ball game, because like I said, they did not have a lot to offer. We're going to rapid fire this one briefly, everybody. Juan Soto in the first inning had himself a single, but then we saw Soto unfortunately picked off between first and second. He actually got on with a bunt, mind you. In the bottom of the first, we saw Cole Keith get on with a leadoff single. That's all she wrote. Back-to-back strikeouts on Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green. I like the stuff from Clay Holmes today. I really didn't think he pitched all that bad, but again, being a 5-and-die pitcher, he can only get you so far. In the second inning, Jeff McNeil, more like Jeff McKitts, had a single, but that's all she wrote. Marte and Beatty strike out back-to-back. In the bottom of the second, Torkelson with a walk. Then we would see a McKinstry single. Then Javi Baez would reach there on catcher's interference, and then Jake Rodgers would get on with a single, and that would make it 1-0 there. Detroit, we would see them up 1-0. John with the $5 holla. Thank you for that. We'll get to that shortly. In the top of the third, we see Lindor with a 1-out double, his 29th of the season. Then Alonso drives him in with his 35th double of the year there. Alonso now has how many RBIs on the season? Oh yeah, just has casually 113. Kind of good if you ask me. Well, on his way for 130 plus RBI season, like I predicted with my guy Evan Roberts on his Rico Bronia podcast for our season preview months ago. As we continue on here, 1, 2, 3 for Clay in the third and the fourth, we see the Mets go down in order. Marte would ground out softly to end the inning. In the bottom of the fourth, we would see a line out there for Perez, and then McKinstry hit a ground rule double, and then Javi Baez Almago struck out swinging. Final clean in your work there for Clay Holmes. As we get to the bottom of the fifth after the Mets do nothing, Cole Keith gets on with a 1-out walk, Kerry Carpenter on with a 2-out walk, and this came back to bite Clay Holmes in the ass. He's pulled from the ball game, which made sense at the time. I was completely in favor of that decision by Carlos Mendoza. Clay was working with 2 outs, had 2 guys on, felt like a bad thing was going to happen. Sadly, a bad thing still did happen, but everything made sense from Mendy's decision-making here, and I'm not going to fault him for it. Gregory Soto comes in, supposed to get that big out on Riley Green. I know Riley Green's had a great season, has not done well against lefties at all, however, but it wasn't the single as much that Riley Green hit against Soto that was costly as it was the pitch prior to that single, as unfortunately Gregory Soto had a wild pitch while up in the count, which really came back to bite him here, as that wild pitch moved both runners in a scoring position, and if it wasn't for that single that was smoked roughly 109 off the bat there, that was just out of the reach of Soto and others there to get to left field, which made it a 3-2 ball game, would have been a tied 2-2 ball game if that wild pitch didn't happen again just a pitch or so prior. So that was my big gripe with Gregory Soto today, less on the contact he gave up and more on his own blunder on just completely missing location. That wasn't on Sanger at all, who was catching. That was most certainly all on Gregory Soto. That gives them a 3-2 lead as we head to the 6th inning. And the 6th Juan Soto gets on with a leadoff walk. Alonso with a single there, so you got 2 on, less than 2 out for Nimmo, who would then line out. Vientos would make it a 1-run ball game as he pokes a single to left. Why? Because Marky V is always stepping up, that's why. Jeff McNeil, more like Jeff McWalks. Bases loaded, folks, less than 2 out. Tommy Canely, who throws a changeup almost 90% of the time. Marte knows what's coming, and Marte still grounds out into an inning-ending double play. As I mentioned, Marte, without a doubt, was the most costly batter for the Mets today in their lineup. Perez with a leadoff single in the bottom of 6. That's all she wrote, though. Scrolls inning of work for Gregory Soto otherwise. In the 7th inning, we would see the Mets have a 2-out base runner, and Lindor would a walk. He would steal his 28th bag of the year, but Soto would ground out to end the inning. In the bottom of 7th, Ryan Helsley comes in, and he gives up a leadoff single right away to Cole Keith. Then he walks Gleyber Torres. Then he gives up a bomb to Kerry Carpenter. And in case you guys are wondering what this home run was, it was 100 miles per hour, down and in. Not a terrible pitch, but again, you're an MLB hitter. You know how to turn on one. Velocity only means so much if you're ready for it, and it did appear that they were sitting fastball big time, as this Tigers team, one of the best teams in baseball when hitting fastballs. Not shocked to see them smoke Helsley here. 106 off the bat. That makes it a 6-2 Detroit Tigers lead. They would go on to win by that score. He would give up a single there to Spencer Torkelson after somehow striking out Riley Green, but a wild pitch by Helsley would then put a runner at second base, and then Justin Hageman came in to get the final out of the inning. The Mets could not get anything going from there, as Marte would ground out to end the inning after a couple runners were on, and Nimmo and McNeil there with 2 outs in the 8th. In the 9th inning, the Mets were not able to get anything cooking, and they go on to again lose this one by a final score here of, yes, we're going with 6-2. On the pitching end, Clay Holmes today, I didn't hate what we saw from Clay today. I actually liked some of his put-out stuff. I thought he looked nasty, but another prototypical 5-9 outing for Clay Holmes today. Should not have had some of these runs scored on him, but this is what happens when, again, you're walking too many guys in your final inning of work today. So Clay Holmes, after going not even 5 innings, 4.2 to be exact, and also had himself a total of how many pitches did he throw today? In this one, Clay Holmes threw a total of 85 pitches because, again, the Mets just felt it was in best interest to take him out of the ball game. I did not hate that decision, but as I've said before, and I'll say it again, Clay Holmes should be utilized in a piggyback situation with another starter or with someone from the farm right now. I think it makes a lot of sense. Clay Holmes, I'm going to be giving a grade today of 5 out of 10 because, again, he's a 5-9 pitcher. Nothing more, nothing less. He's not reliable when it comes to going down the stretch for this Mets team. Ryan Helsley, dog water. This Mets bullpen today, dog water. Bullpen grade, 2 out of 10. Justin Hageman was the only thing that was carrying. Gregory Soto didn't help either, so I'm not happy with him, even when it was scroll inning after giving up those unearned runs. Don't care. Wasn't happy about it. On the heading end, this is how the ball game ended for the Mets offense. We saw it as follows, everybody. Francisco Lindor, 1 for 3 with a run scored, a 265 average and a 791 OPS. Soto, 1 for 4 with a run scored, a 259 average, 920 OPS. Alonso, 271 average, 873 OPS with a 3-hit game, including an RBI double, his 35th of the year, and 113 RBIs on the season. Nimmo, a 1 for 4 game with 267 average, a 787 OPS. Vientos, 242 average and 728 OPS there. 1 for 4 with an RBI. McNeil, 1 for 2 with a pair of walks, a 266 average and an 814 OPS. Marte, we saw 0 for, left 6 on base, not good, 275 average, 778 OPS. Beatty, we saw 0 for, couple strikeouts, 251 average, 737 OPS. Sanger, 0 for, a buck 74 average, 404 OPS. And Terrence, who came in after Sanger in this one for a couple at-bats, 227 average, 640 OPS, folks. The Mets were 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position, left 9 on base. And I do have another stat or so that I do want to relay your way that I have from earlier. Make sure that I find it, guys. This is the Mets offense heading into today's game. Just to share context on how good this offense has been, let's not lose sight of it. It sucks that they lost today. Don't get me wrong. I'm the first to tell you how pissed off I am about it. But let's appreciate what the Mets have done over their past 20 games entering this unfortunate series finale loss today. The Mets rank first in offense when it comes to runs per game at 7.6. They are first in batting average, 316, even though I'm sure that dropped today. They're first in average with runners in scoring position, which also dropped today, but they were at 383 over the past 20 games. And OPS versus fastballs, 1,033, far and away the best in Major League Baseball as well. So again, this Mets offense has most certainly stepped up in more ways than one over the past north of a month plus now. But they're not going to be able to carry every single day. That's why the Mets needed some quality pitching. Clay Holmes can't even give you 5 strong innings. The bullpen's dog water. It's just a perfect recipe for the Mets to not secure that series finale victory there in Detroit against this Tigers squad.
Folks,
and
have
I
you
do
been
also
seeing that
apologize to
big
everybody that just got the jump scare from my Moo ad. I apologize for that, everybody. But as we head now to take a look at the wild card standings, the Mets still have a 4.5 game lead on the Cincinnati Reds, and depending on how the Reds fare in their latest ball game, we will see most certainly what happens there. But listen, the Mets have the Reds next on the schedule, on the gauntlet. So buckle up and get ready. The Mets are getting set for Cincy in Cincy, and that is going to be their biggest series yet against a team that's nippy on the heels for that final wildcard spot. Same thing with the San Francisco Giants, as the Giants are absolutely rolling right now. Rafael Devers is about to pick fights with every starting pitcher, it feels like, all jokes aside, as he had a tank off of Kyle Freeland yesterday, and Kyle Freeland was yapping at him as if Freeland is in batting practice like a bum, as is the case with that entire Rockies team, but I digress. Giants are on a heater. They're definitely a team to bear in mind now. The Arizona Diamondbacks, who just lost Lourdes Gurriel Jr. with a torn ACL, unfortunately, they are still somewhat in the mix, as are the Cardinals, but again, 4.5 games out to 6 games out, still a good gap for the Mets to work with, but they most certainly want to gain more ground there, as they are just 10 games above 500 right now at the time of us talking right now. So that's what you have there on the Mets wildcard, everybody. So now let's head back to the main slide here, and let's break down more in Mets land, as I do believe we have some key remarks to share from Ryan Helsley himself. So let's go ahead and hear what Ryan has to say, and then we'll continue to break down whatever comments, questions, and concerns you got for your guy Wardy as we're breaking down the latest in Mets land.
Ryan, you've obviously had a lot of success in this league. What is the most difficult part of just trying to find your way back right now?
Yeah, just trying anything and everything. It feels like make a good pitch and it gets hit, and then mistakes obviously get hit as well. And seems like everything's falling, and obviously can't walk guys and got to compete out there, and just keep trying to get after it. When I'm out there.
Ryan, you've obviously.
And listen, two things can be true at the same time. Has Ryan Helsley been horrendous? Absolutely. Do I hate Ryan Helsley? No. Especially when I bear in mind how excited I was when the Mets first traded him. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, oh, this guy was always horrendous. This was a terrible move from the beginning. None of that's true. It's just a very unfortunate circumstance that anything and everything that could go wrong for a player has been going wrong. And that's why I feel for him on a human level. But as we can see it there, guys, he just, and as Mac Dodd says in the chat, we agree, he is broken. He is absolutely broken. He looks demoralized. He looks like he has no confidence. And he looks like a guy that, again, is continuing to search for something that we just don't know if he's going to be able to find with literally no time left this season to really figure things out. So it sucks. Senga's broken. Helsley's broken. Montas was always broken. Manaea's broken. Holmes is broken in the sense of you can't get any length from him whatsoever. Just a lot of guys that were supposed to be guys that the Mets were going to rely on down the stretch, pushing a postseason play, are not at all there whatsoever. And as I mentioned, do I think the Mets are going to DFA Ryan Helsley in the near future? No. It would not only admit that David Stearns' trade was as bad as it currently appears, but it also would make known that, yeah, the Mets would be allowing an opposing team that's contending to pick up a guy who led all baseball in saves last year. Like, this is a man where roughly 50 saves a season ago, and now he looks like he's closer to being a DFA candidate than a guy that the Mets should keep in their bullpen for another calendar week. It's insane. It's baseball. This is the beauty and the curse about it. But man, oh man, does it suck right now what he's going through. I'd rather see Brosman out there as well. I wholeheartedly would rather see Brosman out there, because while Brazo is far from overly reliable, he is more reliable than Helsley right now. But the Mets don't have any minor league options with Helsley, so they're kind of stuck. Until they either fully cut ties or get him right, it's going to be one or the other, or you just box him out, or you utilize him as little as you possibly can until you feel like you've figured him out, or you make the executive decision to say, hey, we're going to part ways with you. Because the Mets can obviously make a decision by making sure that depending on when Helsley would say be DFA'd, if he would be DFA'd, that whatever team would pick him up, they wouldn't have the ability to utilize him for playoffs. That is something to bear in mind, right? The Mets did this the other way around, where they brought in a reliever after the cutoff in September, where that pitcher couldn't be utilized in playoffs, but just a guy for the Mets the innings of and see what he could do if they want to bring him back. And that was Brad Hand. In the 2021 season, if I'm not mistaken, the Mets brought in Brad Hand towards the end of that year, and he didn't fare all that well. He was out of Major League Baseball not long after, but Brad Hand had multiple years of success, and it just didn't really work out once he got here, a couple years too late. But Ryan Helsley, that is a route the Mets may go down if they really are stubborn on, we want to keep him just for as long as no other team can acquire him and utilize him for postseason. So it is crazy that we're talking about Ryan Helsley as a DFA candidate, but it's not the fact that we're crazy for bringing it up, as it's crazy that this is a warranted conversation to have right now, Max, and I think you could probably agree to that. And I don't want to see the guy cut right away, but it's like, what else are we really supposed to do? Next route is to utilize him in low leverage, okay? And if that doesn't work after multiple low leverage outings, then you kind of need to say to yourself, okay, you have to cut him. What else is there to do? You're just leaving an open roster spot there that's being utilized by him, and it's taken away every single day when that could be open for someone that can bring you anything else. It sucks is what it is. This is a very unfortunate conversation that we're having. I'm not happy to be having it right now, but there really is not much of an alternative. It's either start to perform and low leverage, in which many does not put him out there, or the other alternative is you throw him on the injured list. And the injured list alternative is an intriguing one if David Stearns could do his best Billy Big Bucks impression here and get a nice little Phantom IL going. Because as we know, every pitcher deals with ailments, every pitcher deals with injuries. But in the case of the Mets, they could take advantage if they say, oh, after some further imaging, we noticed some slight inflammation in the elbow of Ryan Helsley, and we think that they may have been factoring into his lack of success lately. Ryan just came in the office yesterday, and we had a cordial conversation, and he just wants to get himself right. We want to get him right, and outside of him subconsciously tipping his pitches, we do think that there's a slight flare up here in his elbow that if we get calmed down, can hopefully get him right, get him a nice little mental break. Trying to speak on Carlos Mendoza's behalf right now. I think that is the route that we kind of need to go. And I know 102 is fire, but it's not fire when it's batting practice, and that's what he's been. So we got three options right now. It's you DFA Helsley, you put him on the injured list, or you start to utilize him in even less and less outings and low leverage. It's obviously going to be the latter made by Carlos Mendoza and this Mets team as of now, but once things continue, especially if they continue to get as bad as they've been, I just can't imagine that he stays in this pen that much longer. It feels hard to believe because of how costly he's been every single time out. Like literally every single time out there. Any chance you could get him to accept a minor league assignment? No, because he doesn't have minor league options. You can't just do that. The Mets can do that with Senga, which is what they're proposing right now, and they'll have an answer by Friday. It's because Senga still has multiple minor league options left on his contract. Ryan Helsley doesn't, from my understanding. And I will double check right now with each and every one of you just to confirm this, but I'm almost certain that he doesn't have any minor league options. And that's in part the problem here, because if he did, the Mets would have sent his ass down already to try to get right. But they don't have that. Because even if he agreed to a send down right now without having minor league options, he would be available to everyone else in baseball to pick up. And that's what the Mets are trying to avoid right now, especially because they know it's Ryan Helsley. Listen, Ryan Helsley's played dog-you-know-what baseball for a month. That doesn't take away what he's done his entire career. One bad month doesn't mean that that can't change into some great 2 to 3 weeks if he just gets himself right. And yeah, he has no minor league options, as I mentioned. So, not a chance in hell that he goes. And the craziest thing, too, is his expected ERA is, well, it's going to change now because his ERA is north of 5. But entering today's ball game, his expected ERA was 3.74. But his FIP was at a whopping 4, and his expected FIP was just under 4. A lot of things that you're not loving as a Mets fan to break down right now. Helsley can't handle it. I know he's one of those guys that has not been able to handle it right now. It sucks because you always hope and pray that these guys can go out and handle it. And guys, help us get 100 likes to all of our live and recurring viewers. It would really mean a lot, guys. We are less than 40 likes away from 100, and we have north of 300 people concurrent in here. All you gotta do is smash that like and subscribe button on your way, and it's greatly appreciated. And thank you guys so much for doing exactly that. We are giving away a jersey to one lucky subscriber on the platform of whatever player you currently want in the club, and all you gotta do is hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 35,000 subscribers. We are less than 400 away. Help us get to that milestone. Once we reach it, we'll be giving away a jersey to one lucky subscriber approximately 1 week from that point on. And again, guys, we're close to 100 likes in the chat, so thank you so much for that as well. I really do appreciate it. We will have more Mets content for you guys tomorrow. We will have a new video dropping for you guys, as well as a members-only live stream, so be on the lookout for that, everybody. Barring changes, we will have a members-only live show in the evening tomorrow. I will give you guys a confirmed update on the community tab, but just be on the lookout for it. I don't have an exact time for you right now, but just make sure you have your notifications on and ready for any time from, I'd say, like 7 p.m. onward. I'm not going to aim to do it too late tomorrow, probably at a reasonable time, but should any news happen with the Mets, especially in the case of Brandon Sproat or anything along those lines tomorrow, I doubt it, but if it does, we'll of course break that down on the platform as well. You guys will get a breakdown video from me of all the latest Mets land reporting wise, get into like what we did this morning, as well as a series preview into that Cincinnati Reds matchup. And as we get into the series against the Reds, we are eyeing to do one of those games in the playback app for our latest watch party, barring changes. So be on the lookout. It's not 100% confirmed, but we're looking more and more likely to make that happen. If I do that, don't be shocked if I do that with my guy Giraffe Neck Mark, that many of you guys know, whether it's on my platform by heading over to playback.tv/WardyNYM for one of those games against the Reds, or if it's on his platform, same thing. Instead of WardyNYM, however, it's Giraffe Neck Mark. We'll be giving you guys some fun play-by-play as well during that series, so be on the lookout for it. Just don't know what game yet. So barring changes, but those are things that you guys can look forward to in the next 48 to 72 hours or so here on WardyNYM. Please continue to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Make sure to check out our video that we dropped earlier today in case you guys haven't already, as well as our recaps that we drop every single day in the Bleacher Report app in a 2 to 3 minute fashion. Just head over to the Bleacher Report app or look up bleacherreport.com and then type Mets. Scroll down until you'll see my thumbnail. You'll see my thumbnail made by yours truly. I'll be breaking down the Mets game that was in a 2 to 3 minute fashion, the way that I'm going to recap this loss there in the BR app for each and every one of you as well. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Let me know if you think Ryan Helsley should be a DFA to all of our replay viewers in the comments down below. What is next best for him? I'll see you all next time here on the WardyNYM platform. And as always, no matter what, folks, no matter what, let's go Mets.